Hi, my name is Matthew. I'm a 7-time certified Salesforce developer, and I've built a ton of agents. And basically what we're doing here, we're mixing those two. I'm doing a tutorial on how to build agents inside of Salesforce. Here, let me move my head out of the way so you can see our little agent right here where we can talk. This agent, first of all, is an expert on this particular org. It has full documentation which was automatically generated from the metadata files of the org. This agent is able to both generate support tickets and suggestions on how to improve the org, and it's aware of which link the user is messaging from. My expectation, or you could say promise, I don't actually promise this, as I'm just showing this for free, but with a little bit of work and a little bit of fine-tuning to really get this working right, this agent should easily be able to cut your support tickets in half and improve the quality at the same time, because the agent will have more information. So, the user discusses with the agent. It's an expert, and I do mean a legit expert on your org. It really knows every validation rule, every error. It knows what that means. And then, if you have an opportunity at a given stage and it's not wanting to go to the next stage, this agent has a good idea why, has a good idea of which steps to try. So that's what we're building here. It does not use Agentforce. We're using just API cost of Gemini API calls, so much drastically, extremely cheaper. And I hope you join me for the tutorial. If you do need help with AI or Salesforce, you should get a hold of me. I can help. So I'm just starting from a very basic position of being logged in to my Salesforce org. I'm logged into Flowise here. Okay, I guess I'm inside an agent. This screen right here is the actual screen you'll get when you very first log into a fresh new instance of Flowise. Okay? So, and then over on this side, I just have Google Anti-Gravity, which is pretty much the same thing as VS Code, just slightly different. So I'm going to start with creating a new Salesforce project. All right, Control-Shift-P to create it, and we'll just do a standard one. We're going to call this the support agent. And I can just do it right here. All right, I need to authorize my org. Just call it prod. Just log in with my Salesforce credentials and click that allow button. Okay, so now Salesforce will be accessible from the Salesforce command line interface, as well as the VS Code extensions. By the way, one step I did previous to this, which is just very simple, is just go into extensions and install the Salesforce extensions. You can just type Salesforce. And then, I suppose I also, you got to install your IDE, like VS Code, or in this case, I'm using Google Anti-Gravity, and you do have to install the Salesforce CLI. So I'm assuming you've got some of the basics covered there. But if not, they're very easy to do, and you'll be able to find a tutorial online. Okay, so I should be good to go now as far as that's concerned. So what I'm going to do actually is I want to pull down metadata from most of our basic items. So I'm just going to ask my agent, please pull down metadata for the standard Salesforce development items. Apex, validation rules, Lightning Web components, Aura components, flows. You will most likely achieve this by altering the sfdx project.json, but there's a couple different ways you could do it. It could just use the command line interface directly. It looks like it's just doing a direct command line interface metadata pool. That makes sense. And we got our metadata pooling here. If I look inside a Force app, it's confused because it's not finding any metadata, which there's a possibility that that could be the case because this is a brand new fresh sandbox. So let me see what AI thinks about that really fast. I'm not used to using a brand new fresh sandbox. Okay, so that's no problem. All I'm gonna do is just go find a random metadata. Okay, I'm just going to pull down a random metadata org that actually has some info, right? So this will be fine here. I'm just going to download this as a zip. So ordinarily you would actually use the metadata from your org, but since we got a brand new org, we're not going to have any metadata, so we'll just use this. Let me see here. I'm just going to extract all of this. What do we call it? Support agent. Oh. We got this in the wrong folder for some reason. But in any case, I'm just extracting all this metadata into... So we're going to pretend like that's the org's metadata, right? It's really not, but it makes very little difference at all. So what I'm going to do now is let me see here. Next step is we need to vectorize this this metadata that we just pulled down. So to write a script to vectorize okay, wait, I'm missing a step here. Go through everything inside of the metadata folder. In this project. And I want you to create documentation from each file. A detailed documentation on each file. What does it do? What criteria does it fire under? What fields does it write to? The complete picture. A new documentation folder. Okay. So that's gonna have it running for a minute here. This is actually a fantastic use for AI agents because it's a sizable amount of work. It gives them direction, you know, and you can just say, go do all this. And so it's got a long time where it can just sit there and start working. And it's doing real, actual useful work, you know. It's creating possibly better than you might expect documentation. So far, I've been working with documentation like this for my org, and I don't think I've had it be wrong yet. And I've asked it an awful lot of questions. Now, in the meantime, while that's working, I'm going to head over to Pinecone because I know that we're going to need some Pinecone credentials here. I've already got a an account with Pinecone, but if you don't, you can create one for free. By the way, I've decided to go with a perspective of I'm just going to let you guys see my credentials and I'm going to cycle them. So go ahead and try them if you want. Maybe you'll catch me slipping. Doubt it. Yeah, mostly AI assisted development. Other. Guess I'll be nice and participate in their survey. Wish somebody would answer some of my questions, though. Okay, so I've got a API key generated here. And I'm just going to go ahead and right away, let's see here. Okay, so it is building me a documentation folder here. It's going to have documentation on the different custom items that we've got. You know, now if this was a Salesforce production org, I would probably do these in 2 separate folders. Like I would have, I wouldn't, cloud my org's metadata with things like this documentation folder and what I'm about to add right now, this .env. But for the sake of just making it simple for you all to see and everything, I'm going to go ahead and do that. And since this is not a real production org, I'm not too worried about it. But so what I'm going to do is just call this Pinecone. Oh, did you see it flash? But so yeah, now it's got that Pinecone API key that it needs. You know what else we're gonna need is well, actually, there's different ways you can do it. You could have Google do your vectorization. You can send it off. It's an API call to a large language model, just like when you're sending an API request to an LLM to ask it a question, you send it the API call to have it vectorize chunks of text. And so what that is doing is it takes a chunk of text and gives it a semantic meaning position for the vector database. It's a large number of dimensions. Like some of them are 768 dimensions, some are 1024 and more. And those different numbers do actually help too with better semantic meaning search capabilities. But even the 768 ones are great. So there's quite a few options when it comes to the vectorizing, which I'll go into it a little bit here. But so basically what it's doing, it's going to take your text and break it into chunks. So we've got all this documentation that's being created where the AI has generated a piece of documentation that tells us exactly how the applications work. This one tells us exactly how the different custom Aura components work, right? And so what the vectorization will do is it will take chunks. So instead of the entire file, it'll take chunks. And you can chunk in a bunch of different ways. You can have an agent go through and do the chunks for you so that it's grouping by semantic meaning. Like it might just grab the files and it might grab the metadata and the API version like that. And then you could have another one might just be, you could use periods. You could stop at every sentence, or like you can use HTML tags, different things. But a pretty good, decent way to do it that I'm planning to do for this one is we're just going to do a simple straight up 1,000 characters. So it's going to count every 1,000 characters will be a new chunk, and then it will be a 200 character overlap. So it will go back a little bit and make another chunk of 1,000 characters. Each time it'll go back a little bit and make another chunk of 1,000 characters like that, So that is the chunking. And then each of those chunks gets sent off to the API call, embedded into the vector database, so that now we have this vector store, so that these all this information can now be searched very effectively, very efficiently, based upon semantic meaning. So, so now you say Lightning Web Component, it's going to turn up a Lightning Web Component, but if you say Aura Component, it'll still hit on this result because that's close enough in semantic meaning space that it's still going to know you're talking about user interface, so it'll still trigger that, which is really useful for a lot of things when it comes to trying to search a large body of text, right? So what this is going to allow it to do, though, is you can have a large amount of text that can be efficiently searched by the agent, so that it's able to what's it called? Find the things that are applicable. So Google Anti-Gravity is running already, and I want to let it continue to run. So I'm going to go ahead and fire up Cloud Code as well. Got the dangerously skip permissions, and the way that I kind of do this is I would not do dangerously skip permissions if it was connected to a real production org. Absolutely not. Oh, there you guys go. There's my API key. Like I say, I'm going to cycle them anyways, but feel free to try. If you catch me slipping, you deserve some free API access. Okay, deal. But so what I'm going to ask Claude to do now is, let's see, Claude. Okay, we have the documentation folder, which is custom markdown files of documentation on the org. I have created a .env file in the root of this project with a pinecone API key. Wait, let me use the exact terminology. Are you for Gemini API key? I gotta get that in there too. Okay, so I'm gonna ask it, please use these credentials and write me a script to chunk everything in the documentation folder and vectorize it using best practices at a chunking strategy of 1,000 characters per chunk with a 200 overlap. Let me know if you need anything else from me. And while that's working, I'm going to go get the Gemini API key that it needs. You guys are getting to see inside my world today. This is like my life in here. Let's just go with the Gemini API project. Okay, let's create a new credential. Sure, that's fine. Strict Gemini language API. I believe that should be all that we need for embedding models. So, you know, if you've never done this before, you would need to create a Google Cloud account. And there we go, so I can share my second API credential. While that's working, I'm going to head over to Pinecone and create my first index. So let's see, we gotta choose a we gotta choose one that is compatible with Gemini's embedding model. Let me Google that real fast. Okay, so you got an option to control the size, but yeah, most of the time when I've worked with Gemini, it's been 768 dimensions. So I think we'll probably go with that. Let's see. And you know, OpenAI offers these as well and that sort of thing. Interestingly enough, Anthropic does not. Okay, so I'm just going to call it support agent. Go ahead and create the index. So hopefully you noticed that I just did that at 768 dimensions. And I'm going to specify over here that we are doing it at 768 dimensions. Okay, it is already mentioned that it's doing that for Gemini text embedding 004. Okay, Gemini. I need to do npm install. Let's see. I was thinking I needed the URL for Pinecone as well. Oh, that's cool. Pinecone is like a skill for Cloud Code. Okay, it appears that all we need is the API key. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and have Cloud Code run npm install and then run the script, and we'll see what happens. I bet you it will fail on the first attempt, but we're about to find out. In the meantime, I suppose I can have Google Anti-Gravity go ahead and build the Salesforce components that I need, which would be two parts really. A Lightning Web component to act as a chat interface, and Apex that's going to handle the API requests whenever a chat is input. Okay, so I'm just saying, have the Lightning Web component contain the chat history and send it with every request. So this way the user can control it by simply refreshing the screen. They get a completely new chat history, and the agent has forgotten everything that they said. So the whole conversation is sent with every chat message. And then I want the agent to be able to reply. Okay, the agent's to reply in JSON. JSON is going to include, the message, and allow the agent to indicate if it wants to call a tool. The agent will have two tools available. One allowing it to create a case, a support case. Which it will do whenever it's unable to help the user get unstuck. And it will also be able to create new records of a custom suggestions object. The suggestion object has not been created yet, so you'll need to do that as well. This will just be a simple object allowing the agent or users to indicate ideas for improvements to the Salesforce org. I've done this quite a lot of times in multiple different projects, and I found it actually performs great. That you give the agent an agentic tool to give suggestions on how to improve the system, and the agent's there with the user all day, every time. every time they're using the system. So it will always see ways in which people get snagged, people get stuck, that we might not see as the developer unless we're there at the time. And so it just gives the agent the opportunity to notice that there's potential for improvement to our system. And I've tend to found that I get really good, insightful suggestions from the agents automatically, and not. Depends on the prompt, but not overly frequently. Like I'll have users just using, a few users using it, and I might get like one suggestion, but it'll be a really fantastic suggestion oftentimes. So that's a great design tool that I use like every time now. Well, and I really like allowing my users to be able to suggest improvements as well. So I do that with every application that I build on both sides. I'll create a suggestion object, and then I'll give the user access and I give the agent access. And both will be good, but surprisingly oftentimes the agent's suggestions are fantastic. It's offering to use Pinecode's built-in embeddings. Sure, let's try that. Because I've dealt with this before. I know what this is too, and it can be a total pain. I mean, not too bad, but it might take 15 minutes of messing around with it. Is most likely the reason that the Gemini API key is not working is because it has a restriction. Which I did put a restriction, but I thought I chose the correct one. Maybe I'll just unrestrict it too. So that actually probably would have been the faster. Here, I'm gonna. I bet you there's a pretty good chance that just unrestricting that API key is going to fix that. It's interesting. Oh, it's because I'm logged into my other account. I would prefer to just we'll try the pine cone. Really gotta love working with these agents. They're so fast and quite competent. So I got Google right now is working on building the Apex and the Lightning Web component, and we got Claude Code working on chunking. I can be doing in the meantime, I can head over to Flowwise and start building our agent. Now, again, this is the screen you'll see on Flowrise. Right, if you just create a new account, a free account, the moment you log in, you'll see this. Okay, and so all we're gonna do here is just create a new agent. I'm gonna go ahead and add an agent node. And so when the flow starts, it will go to the agent node, and then I'm gonna add a knowledge store. The vector store is going to be Pinecone, as we just created here. And the same thing, I need to create some Pinecone credentials. Thank you. Support agent. Okay. Now I'm going to leave these pretty much as they are. We need to also create some Google credentials. Which I'm hoping, and I do expect, that these credentials will work on this end. Because I think it was just the embedding model that was getting hung up. At least that is my hope. Okay, so you see Flowise makes it nice and easy here. We just add an agent. You can add tools to it, which is nice because oh, by the way, I want something a little smarter than Flash. Flash 1.5 is not a very smart agent, or not a very smart LLM. Let's maybe go with Flashlight. Flashlight, not to be confused with like how you see things when it's dark. But yeah, so you know, the reason I have elected to use Flowise is because we do this much, and already there's a working endpoint on the internet. Right here, see this endpoint here? You can send an HTTP request there, and you will get a reply from this agent. So it just could not be easier to set up, especially for Salesforce, because, you know, My actual preferred agent to work with is like LangGraph. I really love LangGraph because it's got the dynamic capabilities of the large language models combined with completely deterministic flow control. You know, you can control the logical steps in the program, and then at the point that you want, have an agent there, and the agent can, the agent can still have autonomy. It can still make decisions and whatnot, but it comes to that agent at exactly the point that you choose. And then you can also, branching away from the agent, you can again give it paths that you select. So you could say, for example, instead of just letting the agent do what it chooses, you could give it path A or path B and that kind of thing. But the problem with that, though, is you create it in Python, and then you have to like, you have to deploy it to the internet. Or if you're going to run an agent locally and you want to be able to reach it from Salesforce, you have to use something like ngrok or a Cloud Ally tunnel to pipe the external internet into your local device in order to talk with the agent. But here with FlowWise, it just puts it out there in the cloud. Okay, now that I clicked that, it's a publicly available, and here's the URL. So actually, let's see what happens if I just go to that. Cannot read properties. Cannot read properties of undefined reading file path. So I'm not too certain what our problem is here. Could be this too. We'll need an embedding model. Did I forget to do that? No, I don't believe that I did, but I think I forgot to set it for this one. Yes. There we go. Hey, all right, we got a working agent here. Let's see, we have not embedded anything yet, but we can ask it. Okay, let's see if this ever got finished with creating an LWC. Looks like it did. Oh, you know, that's inside documentation. Would be over here. "26 new files. That's a decent number of files. Oh, interesting. It did an interesting architectural decision here. It chose to have me set the endpoint in the custom metadata type. Alright, so let's just try to deploy this whole folder and see how that goes. Agent settings.mdt. Optional API key. Huh. Interesting. I never would have made that particular architectural choice. It's not a bad choice to use a custom metadata type. Personally, I probably would have just used it inside of the meta.xml file. If you're familiar with developing Lightning Web Components, you'll know what I'm talking about. There's a place where you can expose an input field for the admin when they go to add your Lightning Web Component. They can just input different details, and I would have just put the URL there. Pretty crazy how good at fixing these issues AI is in general. Like, the number of times that I've just given it output from an error like this and just let it fix it for me is just pretty much crazy. It says it thinks it's fixed now. What do you guys think? Think it's fixed? Oh, I can't just do that command there because that's an agent. I can do it here though. Deploy source to org, so that will push all the code changes up to the org. Failed. See if Cloud can help me with FlowWise. And you know, this does happen to be my first time I've ever actually connected a knowledge store to Pinecone. I've done it before to other things, to a lot of other things, but not this exact particular combination, Pinecone with FlowWise. See, I've connected it to Pinecone, but something seems to be wrong. The only information I gave it was an index name and the Pinecone API key. Well, Cloud sounds very confident that it's because the index is empty, which it would be right. We have not run, at least successfully run this okay, actually Cloud Code says that I am incorrect on that. It says that we have run it. Let's see what we got here. If we look inside the Pinecone UI, oh, it looks like we didn't use the support agent though. So here are our chunks of vectorized documentation. And keep in mind, guys, we've been working for 55 minutes. We built all this from scratch. It's pretty crazy what you can do. But so this will definitely be part of it right here. Wait. We got the incorrect name because it's actually support docs v2 is the name of the index. So let's come over here and try to change that. Oh, that's right. You know what? And like I said, I've never done this part before, but I think I might need to come over here, use document stores. I might need to do something here. We don't need a document loader, because adding a document loader, this is what you do in order to do the chunking. But we handle that chunking locally with a script. Right? Let's work on the part about okay, we got a successful deployment. Let's go look inside. I'm not sure. I'm guessing it just added it to the sales or to like home pages. So I'm just going to look at a random home page of an application, try to edit it, and see if we're able to add that New Lightning Web component. You can also look at the meta. Yep, it's available for homepage, so we should be good. Oh, what was it called, by the way? Agent chat window. Agent chat window. Just where does it have you add it to? Oh, probably like utility bar. Let's see. So I'll go into the Lightning App Builder. Standard sales. Why do I feel like I'm in the wrong thing? App Manager. Close. I thought it was the App Builder. It's the App Manager. Let's just modify the... Wait. Not the classic one. We want the Lightning one. Modify the sales application. I'll just go to that utility bar and add that agent. Okay. So we've got the agent added to the sales application. Let's look at custom metadata types. We got agent settings, custom metadata types. Manage records. Is there already a record? Yes, there's one record. So I'm going to need to add the FlowWise URL here. Oops. I think it's just this URL. Wait, no, that's the chat. It's going to be this one. Let's see, how does this work here? Okay, we got an agent. It doesn't like that. Remote site settings. Let's see what our local agent thinks. Give it the error as well. And in the meantime, let me look. Yeah, no authorization, right? Ah, yes. Add the remote site setting. Okay. Oh. So head over to remote site settings, give it permission to send outgoing. Disable security protocol. Okay. Let's refresh the page. Hide this thing. Let's try the agent again. Boom. All right. See, we're talking to the agent. So you guys can see how quickly this is going. We're just a little over an hour in. We got an agent talking to Salesforce, to our Salesforce users. You know, this agent is available. And see, so this is not that different than what Agentforce does, except this is a fraction of the price. You know, it's just drastically cheaper. And we're using Gemini, so, well, a short time ago I was saying it's smarter too, but actually Salesforce has finally started using the good enterprise models, so Salesforce does at least have intelligent models now, as far as I know. But yeah, so I have this agent here that I can ask it questions, and the only step left to be figured out is the access to the vector database. The database has been vectorized already, so this is already all set up here for great searching. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to troubleshoot that last little piece, and I will figure out what the solution is, and I'll come back on with the solution so you don't have to wait while I'm troubleshooting. Hey guys, and welcome back. So I didn't want to make you wait for me trying to figure that out. You know what it finally turned out to be is like a couple things. First of all, the Gemini embedding model that we were using. So if you were watching before, we wound up just using the Pinecone built-in embedding model, but once we got to FlowWise, that's not one of the options. See, so when you push the vectorized data into the vector database, you need an embedding model, right, to generate the embeddings from, or to vectorize the text, basically. In order to do a query on the database, you also need an embedding model. And those need to match. And so that was what the problem was, is I don't have my options here. I don't have the matching Pinecone built-in one. So we could have got that to work by doing something like a HTTP request to Pinecone and creating a custom HTTP node. But what I wound up doing more easily is I just got Google Gemini to work. And the way I got that to work, let's see, a couple things that have helped me with this is using this right here, Google AI Studio, instead of using the Cloud Console. I've gotten both to work, but I seem to have more luck using the AI Studio ones. And then a big thing is, for the longest time, text embedding 004 was the new model to use. Well, that was recently discontinued. So I think that's actually what my main issue was earlier when we first tried to do this embedding, because originally I tried to use the Google Gemini embedding model, but it failed, and I believe that was because it was using text embedding 004, which is discontinued. But now we wound up using text embedding 001. So all I just had to do was, I generated new API keys. I set it to text embedding 001. Since I signed off, I've had like 3 back and forth messages with Cloud right here, asking it to use embedding, Gemini embedding 001, and I replaced the API key. And now it is working. I can just, or you can see I just asked it a question, and you can see the little documentation wrench. So it has successfully answered a question now. So basically we've got the support agent working at this point. We've got the documentation has been dynamically generated. It's inside the vector database, and the agent is able to search the vector database, and it's going to be able to give shockingly good answers. There's a few more things though that I'm not really seeing yet in this agent that I want to see. Like, it's not deleting the text each time I send. So I'm about to just tell Google to fix some of those things up. Like, can we polish the text or the chat window a bit? It is not clearing the text field when the user sends a message. And then I want to ask it about the two items I mentioned earlier. Also, I had asked for 2 agentic tools. The ability to, create suggestions, which is going to be a new custom object. It's supposed to create, and the ability to create a support ticket, which is just a case, a standard case record inside Salesforce. Did you include these in your previous build? So the agent should reply with JSON like this, and it'll just be, message, and then message, and then tool call, and it will be one of 3 options, either none, like create support ticket, or create suggestion. And the agent chooses to use one of the okay, I guess really what we want to do is and pre-fill, right? And so what this is going to allow it to do is so that it can pre-fill form names, right? So, or it can pre-fill fields. I think you'll understand what I mean in just a moment here. When the agent chooses to use one of its agentic tools, the pre-fill will let it fill fields ahead of time. So it can fill out the case or suggestion fields. Also, I want the link to be sent with each user message. That's super important because it gives the agent context of like, are you on an opportunity or are you on a case, you know? And when it's searching the vector database, it's extremely useful for it to be able to search those different vector embeddings based upon those items. So yeah, I mean, and I think it's relatively straightforward that, you know, you guys, I'm sure everybody else is not having a hard time with just thinking about what software they want and then asking for it. Because these agents are incredibly good at building software. But it's like you still, you know, it's still just the way in which I didn't just tell it. I want it to do tool calls and pre-filled the form, but I actually told it the JSON structure and stuff. That's very helpful. Clear picture, let me fix everything. You know, like you're gonna end up with a lot better results by doing this, a lot more predictable, and they're more likely to work because I will actually take a JSON schema and we'll go over to the agent and we're gonna let it know. There's a place in here somewhere where you can, yeah, JSON structured output. See, so we will actually key in the structured output that we expect from it, and this will create reliably structured JSON. So the agent was already working, but now we're just about to fix it in order to make it better. Let's see. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else that I skipped over while I was paused. So I didn't want to make you wait. Ah, yes. This is one right here. I went ahead and added the system message. And just all this is very straightforward. It's just, you know, it's just a description of what it's doing. The way I made it right now is it's kind of like your job is to search the support docs. That was mostly because I wanted it to always search because I was trying to test. Okay, so it gave me a few pieces of what the JSON would look like here. So let's try and input that over here. So we're going to have message, type string, and then we'll have tool call. And enum vals, all that means is we're giving it options. So it can't just do anything. It has a few values that it can choose. Create support ticket, create suggestion. Create a support ticket, a suggestion, or a suggestion on how to improve the Salesforce org. And finally, prefill. I'm going to also call this an enum. Oh wait, I think this should be JSON actually. I might be doing this slightly wrong here. That's the thing that's interesting about this, though. We are dealing with intelligence, so it can probably figure it out, you know? Well, I don't have a way to say if. I just can enter JSON response format. And for prefill, I put this. See, it's quite incredible to, you know, have this intelligence right there in the system. It's very smart. And they're kind of, I tend to find that they're smart where we're weak. Okay, let me see. Okay. So it basically agreed with me. All right. So, anything else we need to do? Guess it's time to push this. Okay, let me see. I'll just right click over here and just do deploy to source again. I'm going to ask it to give me the complete system prompt, so it will do, you know, a little bit more of a thought out and robust system prompt. That's definitely worth doing real fast. So let's go ahead and add this at the top here. Save that. Did our deploy work? Looks like it. So let's see how's our LWC looking now. Hey guys, so yeah, I don't know what the deal is with Salesforce. It wouldn't let me log in, but I finally got logged back in. I just sent a message. I've done almost nothing since you guys last saw. I just sent a message and I got returned this JSON. So of course, that's looking pretty good. It's very close to what we're wanting here. But we just got to tell our agent to parse it. Just saying. So we'll have it generate a field, but it's ultimately the user that submits a support ticket. Ultimately the user. Oops. And then there's the JSON. And you know, to be honest, I think for what the promise of this this agent is, there's not much left to do. You know, it might be a couple more back and forths with the agent, like you'll deploy it to the org again. It might not work for whatever reason. You explain why it's not working, and the agent will give you another, you know, you might have to give the agent a couple of attempts at it, but that's about it. Other than that, we're done with this project, you know? And it's like, so we're inside of 2 hours here. We've created a agent that is an expert on specifically your org, and I do think you'll find that this will work pretty well. Now, you know, there might be there's opportunities for fine-tuning in a whole number of places. Like this prompt right here, you can probably improve upon the prompt. You know, it would be a great idea to record back and forth. Well, actually, in flow-wise, if you have the Pro version, these will be recorded already. Okay, it looks like even for this is not the Pro version. It is still recording the back and forth. Alright guys, so pretty much exactly as I had described. I went back and forth with the agent like 2 more times, and now here we are. Got it working a little better. You know, so this is the support agent. It now gets the link of where we are, and I can say something like, I am trying to input an opportunity, but I can't see the tab. I think I need updates to my permissions. Can you please submit a support ticket for me? And so it brings back a little kind of form, so the agent is able to make the decision to submit support tickets, or so boom, I just submitted that support ticket. You know, the agent is aware that I agreed. And here we are. Here's the case that it just created. Now I think we should make a suggestion to make AI handle all data input. Do you want to make a suggestion? Sure, let's do it. Okay, cool. Looks like those haven't been added to the available tabs yet, but there you have it. We can generate both support tickets and suggestions for improvement to the org totally agentically. We're saving mad money compared to what Agentforce would charge. This agent should be able to cut your support tickets in half, and we made it in under 2 hours. You know, pretty insane leverage. I do hope you'll join me for some more tutorials. I think we got some really cool stuff to show you here, and you know, the main purpose of all this is I'm hoping that we can all help each other to become more sophisticated. So that, like, the main reason I want to share what I'm doing is because I'm expecting you guys are gonna make me stronger because of it. I think you guys are gonna point out things I could have done better. I think you guys are gonna also have good ideas, and so, you know, I've been kind of doing everything I can to be as caught up as I can with this ridiculously fast-moving AI world, but I'm just kind of realizing that the thing that we're missing is one another. We can do even better job if we have each other, and we're all contributing, you know. So that's why what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to start like a community of dedicated developers that are trying to sharpen their skills, trying to be as sophisticated as they can and make use of these ridiculous technologies. So that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping for you guys to participate back with me. All right? Thank you so much. Hey guys, if you do need help with AI or Salesforce, you should get a hold of me. I can help.